the meta has changed. Here are the best augments to run on Dead Ops Arcade 4 when going for higher rounds or trying to clear the boss fight on normal. For those who don't know, field upgrades and ammo mods can be purchased via the Slayer Mart with Silverback cash, or you could use the Perkaholic Album to award you a random field upgrade and ammo mod. No folks, I am not cheating just because I have a field upgrade on DUA. For your ammo mod, I like to have the Firepower player run Brain Rot, whether that's in solo or co-op. Most ammo mods allow you to deal extra elemental damage to certain enemy types, and Brain Rot allows you to inflict 50% extra damage to abominations and mimics, two of the tankier enemies in later rounds. The Firepower, with its 2 damage upgrades from the Slayer Mart, allow you to deal 260 damage per shot, and with Brain Rot, you'll deal 390 damage to those specific enemies. By the way, all ammo mods cost 12,000 in the Slayer Mart for normal mode. As for augments, I recommend Pheromone as the major augment, which makes it to where turned enemies will act like a mini monkey bomb and attract nearby zombies, and there's even an audio cue associated with them being turned, so once you hear that, you know you'll have a few seconds of safety in that area. Whenever the effect wears off, the brain rotted enemy will die, so you don't have to worry about that particular zombie turning back to the enemy team. This augment even allows special enemies to be turned with this ammo mod too. For minor augments, if you have the ammo mod fully researched, I recommend Extension and Haste, which allows the effect to last longer, 7.5 seconds instead of 5, and with Haste, it will activate more frequently as well. If you're playing the first person playlist, the Light Ray ammo mod, also known as Light Mend in Zombies, is going to be your go-to option. Even if you're running a top-down co-op match, it's not a bad idea for at least one player on the team to use Light Ray. For augments, you'll want to run Big Game as your major augment, and both Extra Strength and Mitosis as your minor augments. The description for Big Game states that it works for elite enemies. On DUA 4, the classification of enemies is a little different than other modes, but keep in mind that does not work on the Abomination, since the A-Bomb is classified as a boss enemy in DUA. Whenever Light Ray activates on these elites, it'll actually deal a good chunk of damage to them, and then when paired with the Mitosis minor augment, you're looking at 5 healing glyphs being provided to the player, which is especially helpful in co-op matches where multiple players might be injured. A single glyph restores 50 HP to the player, which is a third of their overall health, and with the Extra Strength augment, that 50 HP value is increased to 62 HP. For context, when you get smacked in first person, you lose 67 HP, so a single Extra Strength glyph will replenish most of that lost HP. Also with Light Ray, you'll deal 50% extra damage to both Doppelgasts and Elder Disciples. It's important to keep in mind that some augments in DUA do not work as intended, or just don't work at all. I'd be very surprised if augments were even considered when DUA was being developed. Any of them working just seemed like a happy accident from zombies being heavily integrated with DUA on this new engine. Light Ray has a couple examples of augments you should avoid. The dual action major augment does not seem to work. I did not notice any faster healing when consuming a glyph. And the booster shot major augment not only doesn't overcharge your health in DUA, but it just straight up doesn't heal you at all. For your field upgrade, it's best to run Aether Shroud for almost every scenario. Tesla Storm is a pretty solid alternative if you're just trying to beat the game, or maybe for one of your teammates to use in a co-op match. And I'll speak more about it later, but once you get to the 2.0 arenas after round 80, you're going to want to have Shroud in order to more easily contend with the special enemy and abomination spam. The cost of Shroud in the Slayer Mart is double that of any other field upgrade, for a total of 36,000 cash in normal mode, but you do get your money's worth. For your major augment, Group Shroud is obviously the best for co-op matches, allowing your teammates to be shrouded if they're near you. This is a great augment to utilize during the boss fight, or if you have a bunch of abominations spawning in at once. Just be sure that your teammates do not veer off too far from your shroud. If one of your teammates is outside the vicinity of your group shroud, certain enemies can target them and then unintentionally attack players who are shrouded, so beware of this pitfall. For solo, group shroud obviously is not helpful. Definitely do not run burst dash, as will send you flying into electric poles and other hazards. The After Image augment did receive an update for zombies back in Season 3 Reloaded, and by extension DUA got that update as well, where the radius of the clone was extended, along with it dealing damage and knocking down enemies upon explosion, although the damage is fairly insignificant. One negative with this augment is that enemies who are targeting the clone can actually smack you if you're too close to the clone, so definitely try to sidestep the zombies whenever popping this field upgrade. Ultimately, I would recommend this augment for solo matches, as it is helpful to use in higher rounds after the Papaback, where you could group up the abominations and then pop Aether Shroud, and the A-bombs will actually be attracted to the clone, allowing you to line up your shots and deal collateral damage. The final major augment you might consider for solo is Void Sheath, which doesn't quite work in DUA since there's no melee weapon that you can pull out, But there is a weird bug with this augment, where your shroud will actually last a little bit longer, sometimes almost twice as long, but seemingly only for your first couple uses of it when loading a save file or purchasing Shroud for the first time. You can actually see the Shroud duration being extended, but all you're doing is killing zombies with your gun, which of course is not a melee weapon. Again, this ability seems to eventually wear off after using Shroud just once or twice. For minor augments, definitely run Extension, which allows Shroud to last 12 seconds instead of 8 seconds. I don't think that's quite a significant bump as the zombie's description states, but every second in a game like DOA does count. And the more recent meta for Shroud is to actually run Extra Charge as the other minor augment. That's what I ran when I beat 160 on solo a few months ago. When the game first launched though, players like myself thought that the Extra Charge augment didn't do anything in DOA, as it doesn't quite work the same like it does in round-based zombies. As once you earn a charge of Shroud in DOA, it just stays at 1 and never seems to jump up to 2. But by running this augment, whenever you pop Aether Shroud, it allows you to start building back another charge of Shroud during those 12 seconds that the field upgrade is active. So any kills you get, or treasure and gems that you collect, during that time in Shroud, allows you to start making progress towards your next Shroud. Hypothetically, with enough gems from something like a Vortex, or buying gem geodes from the Slayer Mart, it is possible to fully build back another charge while still using your first charge as Shroud with this augment equipped. And in such a circumstance, it'll actually display a 2 count for the field upgrade on your sidebar, although that essentially is just a visual bug, as when you use it the following time, it will drop down to no charge. So again, it doesn't quite work the same way as it does in zombies, but with this augment active, you'll essentially be earning Shroud back at a faster rate. For those who want to run Tesla Storm, for solo matches I recommend Haywire, Lithium Charged, and Amped. If you're running a co-op match, you can replace Haywire with Transformer, and you could even consider replacing Amped with Power Grid, as those are co-op specific augments. With the Transformer Major Augment, each additional player who is connected to the Tesla Storm will have the electricity deal 50% increased damage. So with 2 players, it's 50% extra damage, with 3 players, it's 100% extra damage, and with all 4 players connected, it's 150% extra damage. The damage dealt by Tesla Storm scales very slightly every round, and gets a bit of a jump after round 80 to keep up with the HP increase that enemies receive after defeating the Papaback. As an example, on round 81, these are the different damage values you could expect from Tesla Storm with the Transformer Augment equipped for standard enemies. And you'll deal even extra damage to enemies that are tankier as well. Keep in mind that field upgrades are charged for a combination of kills and collecting treasure and gems, with treasure and gems providing a sizable boost to the progress bar. DOA does not use the same system as round-based zombies, where each subsequent use of the field upgrade makes it longer to charge. Again, that does not apply to DOA. Similar to zombies though, some field upgrades on DOA do charge faster than others. You'll notice that something like Tesla Storm charges faster than Aether Shroud. Field upgrades can be instantly replenished with a Nowhere But There Epic Gobblegum. For ammo mods, you could use the modified Chaos Gobblegum to have them activate more frequently, but this gum only lasts for 1 minute. As of Season 4 Reloaded, there is still no way to earn augment progression when playing DOA. In order to unlock all augments, including the second minor augment ability, you'll have to play the round-based zombies mode. We're going to end the video showing off my recommended augments for the remaining ammo mods and field upgrades that are in DOA. Some of these items are not worth purchasing, but you might find yourself stuck with them if you pop a Perkaholic Gobblegum or receive the item for free from the On The House Gobblegum. I'm sure some of these augments are interchangeable. You might have certain preferences depending on if you're in solo or co-op. These are just my recommendations based on some brief testing. Also, here's a list of elemental weaknesses for all ammo mods. Keep in mind that the Firework ammo mod does not have any enemies that are susceptible to it. Also worth noting that enemies with low HP, such as Ravagers, Hellhounds, Vermin, and Parasites, are going to be one-shot kills regardless of your ammo type. That's all for field upgrades and ammo mods today, folks. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like. Thanks for watching.